We have a clip here. Chris Johnston was on the morning show, was on First Up this morning, and he's got details on Shanahan calling around, telling players about what happened with Dubas. And this is what CJ is reporting in terms of what the big players on this team, effectively the core four, believe the messaging was from Shanahan about their future in Toronto.
Brendan wanted to deliver the news about, what was going on with Kyle Dubas directly to his players, at least as many as he could reach in a short amount of time. And, I think as part of those conversations, those players came away thinking that the core four is likely to be intact next season, that's something Brendan Shanahan would like to see happen. And maybe, put some of those guys' minds at ease because, obviously there's been a lot of discussion about whether there would be a trade to one of those players. I mean, I don't think that anything that was said there preempts the fact that it could still be possible. Obviously, we'll see who the GM is and what that person wants to do. But, those guys came away from those calls feeling as though the organization still wanted to move ahead with them, as a group moving into next season.
Ooh. So this could be a Masai DeMar DeRozan conversation, right?
I think it is.
We have learned that from the past. Right, it doesn't really matter what's said during the offseason. Who knows what's going to happen?
Didn't those two meet out in Vegas, and it was like, don't worry, you're staying, pal.
Yeah, and then Kawhi became available. But honestly, still, the essence of it is what CJ's saying is now this could speak to the players too, right? Players not thinking that they're in the wrong, right? And their interpretation is, hey, it's not our issue, right? Like, deal with Dubas, deal with the coach or whatever. But obviously you want to keep us, and I wouldn't be shocked if that were the interpretation. But, man, that says a couple things to me. One, is it Dubas and Keefe that are going to fall on the sword and not the players? That's a question. But secondly, whoever's coming in as a GM, if that's the messaging from Shanahan, if you want the job, do you have to pitch that? Like, is Shanahan basically saying, I want someone to come in here and tell me that you can win with the core four? That you're gonna build around the core four.
What general manager or prospective general manager would walk into his office if he didn't actually believe that? Would you actually lie to yourself just to get the job? I wouldn't.
I think what
you probably should.
You got to listen to everything, but there's an easy out in this, and I'm trying to remember the word that Brendan Shanahan used in his press conference, that he wanted an experienced manager, but somebody who was bold. Was it bold?
Well, no, he said he'd be experience would be attractive, and then I think it was Dregs that was saying, maybe a GM with some bite. I believe it's been reporting that. Yeah, and I don't know how you interpret that.
What I'm saying is, okay, so I'm just using that as a reference point. If one of those core four ends up getting traded, all you say is, you know what, the new GM wanted to head this direction. Like that's not a binding conversation, right, as we've seen before. That's my point with all of this. You can say whatever you want, but when business comes to business and there is a deal out there that can make your organization better that you feel, you do it. And you just quoted Masai and DeMar. Hey, you're not going anywhere. Actually, you are, because we found a guy who is an upgrade on you that's going to help us win. So I'm sorry, And
that's the nature of pro sports. That's the business. And again, we don't know exactly what was being expressed, exactly the tone behind it, how sincere it all is, or what the interpretation was supposed to be from either side. But, again, with the new GM coming in, if that's how Shanahan feels, like Shanahan – he holds the hammer, man. Like, he's going to make the final call on everything.
Yeah.
So if he wants them back, if that's what he wants, you can take it to the bank. The four of them are coming back. Like, I don't see a GM coming in and selling him otherwise. Like, if he's made up his mind, he wants the four back, then I guess brace yourself for that.
Yeah, but what are we taking from CJ's report there? His report is that he reached out. Did he say that he guaranteed that all of them would remain Maple Leafs?
No.
I don't know if Chris Johnston said that in his report.
No, he didn't. He said they came away believing Shanahan wants the four to return, effectively. So, again, take that for what it's worth. But I don't think people were bracing for that 2 weeks after they lost, right? And a few days after the Shanahan presser and a week after the Dubas presser. Weren't we all? Didn't everyone say it? Like one of them's going.
Well, yeah.
Maybe they're not.
Well, that's
that's the whole thing. Maybe they're not.
The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So, I mean, that's what people deduce from that is like, okay, this core four hasn't been able to get it done. So maybe it is a different thought process shaped around the core four, but I think they've tried everything. So it'd be interesting to see. Again, I think this is all lip service in May. You know, nothing's going to transpire here or be held accountable until October. We'll see. This team's going to look a lot different next year.
Well, naturally, because of the amount of players coming in and out, the amount of acquisitions at the deadline, UFAs, you know, that's going to happen anyway. But will it feel different if the core four are back, Riley's back, Brody's back? You know, the same spine could return. Could. Yeah. I mean, it's too early to know that, and you're right that nothing is binding based on a conversation in May.